Hi everyone. I bet you're already tired. Saturday, 4 p.m. Has been so far? Good. A lot of learning. Do you like the previous thoughts? I hope you did, because this one is not nothing compared with the other ones. Actually, the reason I moved mine after I was supposed to be after David, and I said, no, 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 it's too much. I cannot be after David. It's too much pressure. But then I changed it, but now it's worse because previous presentation was awesome. So today we are going to be talking about Xamarin.Forms and reactive programming. I use Reactive UI, which is the reactive Mvvm framework that we're going to be talking today. So who am I? My name is Pineda. I'm a mobile application developer. I run the user group, user group organizer. I run two user groups, Xamarin and .NET, C Sharp, and open source contributor. Proudly open source contributor, both in code or sponsor. There are sometimes we can't be a contributor in terms of time because of we lack of, but there are other ways for us to help the open source community and projects that are out there that we use and love to keep running. And another way is by being a sponsor. I'm gonna take some more time of the talk just to mention that you can either use the GitHub sponsor, which is a new feature that GitHub has. In the project, you go, you see sponsor at heart, and you can give some money so the maintainers can put more time or pay people to get more time and do good documentation, fix issues, and so on. And another way is by using Patreon. This is a lot of projects right now use patrons, and yeah, I'm probably contributing with a couple of open source projects, including Reactive UI. My Twitter handle, IJPineda.m. That's me. You can find me on Twitter. And let's get to it. So the agenda for today is really short. It's dense, but really short. We're gonna be covering three subjects. Pardon me. It was supposed to be only one, Reactive UI. This morning I made some changes. Never do that. Never do changes on the fly, and I didn't, and I hope I don't regret it at the end. So we're gonna be only talking about reactive UI, but then I said, wow, reactive UI, but what if there are people in the room that they don't know about what reactive extension? Who knows what reactive extension is? So I took probably the right choice because there are a few people that they don't know what reactive extension, and we're gonna be talking about a framework that the whole power of it is on top of reactive extension. So we also be covering reactive extension and Mvvm. Who's familiar with Mvvm? So yeah, good enough. So yeah, I think I did the right choice. I just hope that I did the right choice by putting the content in the slides. So we can. I like to be my talks to be very interactive. So if you have any questions at any time, you can stop me. You can raise your hand. We can go over because most of the time people have questions and they forget it at the end, and we don't want. We want you to. If you have any doubt, we can clear it out. So reactive extension, I read on the website github.net reactive is a library for basically composing asynchronous events. We all know, probably we already know that task to work with asynchronous in the which is part of the .NET, the TPL. But this is another way that you can use that you can create asynchronous calls, calls to synchronous methods, and it also in .NET. It's amazing that this started in .NET back in 1998, if I'm not wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. And we barely use it. There's not many developers in the .NET community that use reactive extension. And one beauty things about reactive extension is that gives you a link style. So you pipe so you pipe link, word, select, and all those methods. The way you do it is identical the way you would do it here with reactive extension. But why should we care about reactive extension? If we already have tasks that we use and love, well, we love until you have an async void and then you have a crash and you don't know because there is no exception. There's sometimes not even catch, but we use it. And this is one of the reasons why we would like to try reactive extension. Basically, here what we have is a comparison between something that we already know and something that is what we're going to be talking today. So if we have a single value in a synchronous way, you will have what you see there. You have a function that you pass an argument and you receive the return of the function. In the way of asynchronous, instead of calling the function well, call the function, but we have to await it using task. This is in the second here on the top. If we go with multi-values and we are synchronous, we have the call to a database that I please advise you that if you are doing Xamarin.Forms applications, never do synchronous call to a database, because we know that it's blocking call and then your user is going to be pissed because they want to use your application and it's very slow. It keeps freezing every time, but it's freezing because of you are not using a synchronous call, either a task or observable. Oh, so if you want asynchronous and multi-value, so you will have observable. One thing to note that people get confused is that when they say asynchronous and multi-value, you don't have tags. You say, well, I can return a task of list. But that's not multi-values. That's actually one value, which is an array or a list or a collection, enumerable, of something. You will have all the value at once. Instead, here, when you're subscribing, when you're using observable, you will continue getting values as they get into the stream. Observable is all about stream. So you have a stream and you subscribe to it and you say, okay, I want to know whenever there's a change, there's a new value on my stream. Let's keep it simple now without filtering and anything. I want to know whenever there's a value on my stream, and every time there's a value, everyone that is subscribed to that stream will get the value. We'll get a notification telling you, well, there's a new value and here's the value. So, as I said before, yeah, 2008, 2009, just 1 year difference. Yeah, I was really close. Reactive Extension came out in 2008, 2009, Reactive Extension for .NET. Since then, many communities have adopted JavaScript, Java, iOS, Objective-C, Swift, and I think even PHP, and they use it. I participate in many communities, like mobile. I try to keep myself in the mobile community, but I go to Android communities, and you hear RxJava is a thing. People use RxJava, and the same for Swift, and there are Rx Swift. People use it, and there's always new talks and presentations in the conference, and that I don't see the same excitement in our community. I hope that change, because this is good. This is good stuff. So exactly, Microsoft, it was created in the .NET world by one of the Microsoft team, and I think we are the one that used it the last. So Reactive Extension can be simplified in two interfaces. Well, this is reactive system.reactive. This is part of the system namespace. You will have IObservable and you have IOserver. You either observe or you can be observed. So far so clear. So these interfaces can be translated into this. Can be translated. The IObservable, that's the implementation. If you go and you inspect, you will see this. IObservable, you have one single method which is subscribe. If you are observable, people can subscribe to you. And if you are an observer, you will have three different choices. You will have an onX, which is the method that is the callback method that is used when a new value is in the string. The error is whenever you have an exception. So we don't have here try catch because of the errors are gonna come in the way of callback. And we also have the incomplete. And the uncompleted is whenever there's no when you don't have more values in the stream, you will get that, and then you can close the subscription. So far, so good? Clear? Questions? Okay. So good thing is that we not necessarily need to implement these interfaces directly because of reactive stage. Reactive stage have a couple or many ways for us to avoid implementing this the interfaces directly. So here, I don't know if you can see where one thing I won't do live coding. I'm not brave enough. And one of the reasons was that last night on my way here, I opened my laptop, I stopped, I came driving from Montreal, 5 hours and a half drive, it's really long. And I open my laptop, I see a new date, and I click on yes. I say, oh gosh, I just updated Visual Studio the night before, so I don't know what's gonna happen today. I didn't want it to find out here in front of you. So I rather went for something that it won't crash, which is this. If you can read it, you can see that this is an approach that we use mostly probably every day. We have an event, we have a property, and this is okay. We'll have a service, and whenever this is a page, and we want to subscribe, so whenever there's a new value in the property, we want to be notified. This is the way we probably would do it right now without observable, without reactive stage. This is fine. This works. Well, I hope that you do not forget this. So this page is this. This is a little change that I did because after I create the page here, I noticed something. This is a very common mistake. As a good citizens, we need to unsubscribe from our events. If we don't do that, specifically that line, if we don't code that line, we might be getting weird situations with memory. Because if you don't unsubscribe, the class will keep in memory as long as the subscription is alive, and it's a deadlock. So you want to unsubscribe. So I mentioned before, this is something that we use most of the time. We get the service, a new instance. For simplicity, I didn't want to, I just created a new. I knew an object, yeah, I knew an object. I know that I should have used a service locator or dependency injection, but in this case, for simplicity, I just created a new. So I have my stock service, and I tell the stock service in the unappearing, whenever you have a new value, let me know. And on disappearing is when you put the application in the background. Please, I unsubscribe because I don't want to be receiving changes in the background when the application is in the background. And those changes, as you see here, those changes are gonna update the UI. And if the UI is not ready because it's in the background, you can be having some crash situations, really hard and ugly. So we continue. Here, and we continue with, we already know what the way we do it. So right now, how can we convert that into a more beautiful and elegant code without having to deal with subscriptions and stuff? And that way it's with reactive programming. Reactive programming is a NuGet package, system.reactive. And you can get it on NuGet. I usually use some Visual Studio for Mac. Who uses Visual Studio? Oh, I think that question was made this morning. So forget about it. Most people use Visual Studio for Windows. So Visual Studio for Windows, Visual Studio for Mac, you can get the package in NuGet, and it will install. This is the package that you want to install, the system.reactive. All these are used by the other one. So you don't need to install this manually. The system.reactive link, the interfaces of the platform services. All those are installed automatically when you install system.reactive. Subjects. That's something, because reactive extension is a set of extension that sits on top of the system.reactive namespace. So sits on top of IOservable and IOserver. So reactive extension offers a set of functionality that will make your reactive programming more pleasant. If we wouldn't use reactive extension, you can by yourself use the server, the IOservable and the IOserver, but you will need to implement it. And trust me, you don't want to have to be implementing the IOservable, the ones that gets observed, because of, there are many things that you need to be taking into consideration: the threads, the subscriptions, the dispose, and many other things. So a reactive extension already do that for you, and do it by using the subjects. Subjects are a way for you to convert non-reactive code into reactive. So let's see how that changed. So if we remember previously in the previous one, when in our service we had an event that when people get subscribed to it, and whenever there's a new change in the stock, we were calling the subscriptions. So we were invoking all the subscriptions that were part of the event. In this case, with the subject, we create a class, we create a property. And why private? Because we don't want to expose the subject, because the subject, if you call the on next of the subject, you will propagate in the new value, and you don't want people from the outside to change your value, to do that. You want to do it internally based on the calls that you do to the servers. So here we removed the service, the event that we had before, and we replaced it with a subject. The subject the subject has a characteristic that it can be observable, and at the same time it can be observer. So you can subscribe to a subject, but also the subject can subscribe to another. So that's why the subject, in this case, you can call the onNext, which is part of the which is a callback method that will be called all the people that are subscribed to it. So here, there's one way to subscribe to the subjects, and that way is. I need my pointer. Would you mind if I go and get my pointer? No, you don't mind, right? I can go. You can stay there, right? Yeah, right. I see that. I can't. Sorry, here I go. Here I come. Here I come. You miss me? No, I guess you didn't. Oh yeah, right. So now much better. So here we're subscribing, and we are doing the subscription directly with the class. For that, the subscription needs an IOserver, and that's why with our main page we are implementing the interface IOserver, and that interface uses these three methods as we showed before. We have the onNext, which is the callback that is going to be used whenever a new value is called here. We have the onError. If there's any exception when we do the onNext, it's going to come here. And we have the onComplete. We are not calling the onComplete anytime, so it means that we are leaving the stream open. But we are not forced to do the implementation. There's one of the subscribe the subscribe method has another way to subscribe to it, and instead of passing the object that is being subscribed, you can have a lambda, so you can have like inline modifications. Here, instead of passing the class, you can do the modification inline. But okay, subject. These three others are other type of subjects. So we have the subject, the one we showed before, and we have these three. We have the replay, the behavior, the async. I'm not gonna go further on these three, because I didn't want to cover the whole hour just on reactive extension. We have operators. As mentioned before, reactive extension is a link-based structure, so you will have mostly the same operators that you have in link. You have the filtering, you have the transformation, you have the mapping, and which is select and select many, and this one is new, and we see later what we can use with it, and there are many more operators that we can use with reactive extension. So reactive extension use reactive, which is part of the system.net, so the system reactive framework. Reactive extension sits on top of that namespace and offers a set of functionality. That functionality is a set of helper methods and classes that we can use to make our code reactive. This is not even Xamarin.Forms. Before, it's just you can use this reactive extension with any type of application. But now we're gonna go, if we don't have questions, we're gonna move to the second part, which is what Mvvm. If you already know what Mvvm, please pardon me. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what we were talking about. And so Mvvm is just a design pattern, which basically the whole goal for Mvvm is separation of concern. Mvvm looks for removing the business logic out of our classes, the classes that are related to the UI, and put it into another class, which will be the view model. This was also invented by Microsoft. Microsoft invented so many cool stuff. It was created by Microsoft and is highly used in the Microsoft ecosystem. All the communities doesn't use it that much, but I really like it. I like the way this works because of having a view model. You can have a part of your application that you can test without having to deal with user events. In the previous presentation, if we wanted to do something here, this is the page, and you will be binding a user click. You will need, if you want to test that part of your application, you will need to mock the click, and it's really hard because you're dealing with the pages, events, and pages lifecycle that you don't want to be dealing, because all you want to test is that when that command is fired, it goes to wherever you gotta go, to the backend or the database, and when it returns back, it updates properly the UI. So that's all you want to test. And if it updates properly the property, because the UIs will be propagated with the events or with the bindings. So it was created by Microsoft, looking to separate logic from the business logic from the UI. Here, the whole Mvvm, it's just one interface. So the whole Mvvm is Inotify property change interface. This is an interface that, when implemented, the only thing that you will need to implement is the property change event. This is the event that people from the outside will subscribe to in order to know when a property was changed. So you implement this, but you also will need to do some changes in your code to raise whenever there's a new change in your code. So here we have a stock property, and we have a command that comes from Xamarin. Actually, this not, but this one, yes, the command. And whenever you click, you do the get stock command, and there's some new stock, this is called raise property change. And basically, this is invoking, it's telling all the people that are subscribed in the outside that there's a new value in the stock property. So this is how it all works. So you have a class that will be handling all the business logic, and will be telling people from the outside or classes from the outside that new changes are in the property. So people will subscribe to this, or people will just not subscribe. They don't need any notifications. Let's see, I don't know what this page is. Honestly, I don't know what this page is. I was trying to figure out, because it seems that there was something important there. We'll see later. So if Mvvm is just one interface, why do we need frameworks? Why we have to deal with something that you didn't create it, that you don't know what was thinking the person that created that framework? Why? For us Xamarin developers, Xamarin offers already everything that is in theory. Xamarin offers everything that we need in order to do Mvvm. Xamarin.Forms. So with Xamarin.Forms we have the bindings. With Xamarin.Forms we have the interface Inotify property change, which is part of the .NET. We have the navigation. So why do we need that in a framework? Well, I will tell you that we know we love open source, and the reason we love open source is because we don't like to be rewriting the same thing over and over and over. If somebody already did a great pop-up library that I'm not going to mention, I'm not going to go and rewrite a pop-up library. I mean, a cross-platform library that you can use from new models. You will have to do a lot of work in order to create the same. So people have come with better solutions. Probably they're the one that you're thinking. That's one of the reasons that you might want to use a framework, an Mvvm framework. And you also are guaranteeing upgradability. You might not have all the time for you to update your own libraries. If you want to go creating your own framework, I'm going to do it on my way. And remember that we should invest on task and not on technology. Clients don't pay you for doing code, it's for doing an application. They don't care about what you use, as far as it's working, and it can be upgradable over the time. So, but yeah, we need a framework. I believe that we should use a framework, and but how to choose what's the best framework? That's gonna depend. Probably a lot of people here already have heard from these frameworks in Xamarin: Prism, Mvvm Lite, Mvvm Cross, Mvvm Fresh. So you don't use frameworks at all? Oh, so you are the ones I do it by myself. Oh, this is gonna be nice. So yeah, all those were frameworks that people use, are there, open source, are up to date, and you can download, and you can avoid having to create this by hand and handling this by hand. So basically, Mvvm frameworks gives you navigation, gives you IOC, inversion of control, and gives you bindings. That's practically in three things that Mvvm frameworks will give you. And the ones I mentioned before, you will get it for free. So let's talk about the framework that we came here to talk, which is Reactive UI. So Reactive UI is another Mvvm framework that, based on reactiveui.net, is an advanced composable and functional reactive. So if you know reactive is if you have been done before functional programming, reactive is like one step before functional programming. You know, the cool things, the cool guys that are now doing reactive programming, F-char, those type of things. So you are one step behind those guys. So you don't wanna be too much behind. So you start doing reactive UI programming. So Reactive UI offers the same that other Mvvm frameworks offers, which is IOC container, which in this case Reactive UI uses Splat. Who uses Splat? Splat, really nice. It's a IOC that is based on service locator. This is big discussion about which one is better, service locator, dependency injection. You use whatever it's you use whatever is best for you. But Reactive UI out of the box comes with Splat, and use it for the view models locator. You have a navigation. Navigation is also part of the Reactive UI framework. You have the bindings. You have the bindings like binding in code, but you also have bindings that you can do in the SAML. I love SAML. David earlier was talking about removing some. No, 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 no. I love so. You guys love SAML. Probably that's the reason you do Xamarin.Forms, because you love SAML so much as I do. So you can do the bindings. You can continue doing the SAML that you love and do the bindings there. And you also have comments. Comments that are gonna be the way to communicate from the UI to your view model that something should happen. The user clicked on a button. The user got into a region. If you are using a geolocation, the Wi-Fi was turned on, and you want a comment to be executed whenever. Let's say that you have an application that will do a sync, and you just want to do it when the user is in Wi-Fi. You don't want to be using people's data. So whenever the user is connected to a Wi-Fi, it will trigger a notification, and that notification is gonna create a command, and that command is gonna do the update accordingly. And Reactive UI also, and the most important thing about Reactive UI is that it is on top of Reactive Station. If you install Reactive UI right now, it's a NuGet package, Reactive System.Reactive UI. You will have Reactive Station as part of the reference too. And Reactive Station is already part of the Reactive UI. So the first things that you will see in Reactive UI is that you have reactive object. With this, you don't need anymore to implement by hand the Inotify property change. All Mvvm frameworks will have something like this, because this is an abstraction of what a view model should be, the base of what a view model should be. Some other changes we will see from one to the other. This is creating the Mvvm by hand, as we did it before, and this is the way we would do it by using Reactive UI. We see the first change here is that we no longer have the event, because it's part of the base class. The same with the comment. Here we were using the Xamarin.Forms comment, and here we will be using a Reactive UI comment. Why? One thing that happens is that when you using this specific comment, look at this. Reactive Xamarin.Forms comment doesn't have one of the constructor to support async calls. So you will have this that is perfectly fine in this scenario, but it looks ugly. For some reason, Visual Studio is complaining because it looks ugly. I hate to see those orange lines on my code. Here you have the same task, which is a task, the same task, and you have a nice way, because of Reactive UI is already taking care of the task internally. This is also a great raise and set if change. It's a way for you, because of here, there's something missing here. You shouldn't be raising every time there's a new value, because you don't want to notify the users if the value is the same. If you have a property, a stock in this case, and you say stock is equal to 5, and then stock is equal to 5 again, you don't want to notify your subscribers that there was a change, because actually it is the same value. Here, this helper method will allow you to only notify if something changed. This is the same, this and this. Just wanted to mention that there's this very cool library that is called 40. So with 40, who heard about 40? With 40, we avoid having this long with this. a clean and beautiful, property, short property. We don't have to have backfill properties because of everything is gonna be handled by 40. 40 is not magic. 40, every time you compile, it will create what it will create this. It's a code generator. And here is an example of Reactive UI. I wanted to show this because this is something that we do a lot. We have all applications have a login page, and we found ourselves validating if so we don't have the users to click on the login button before the username and password are both filled. So username and password have some information. Sometimes you want to have the password more than 3 characters and stuff. With imperative programming, we will have some if here. So we will have if, well, we need to subscribe to this too, because every time the user types, we will need to be verifying if certain conditions happen. Those conditions will gonna be based on this, that the username and the password are not empty. But if we want to put other validations that the username start with something else, we will need to have another if in the imperative way. This is the reactive way of doing the same. Basically, what this is saying is that when any value is one of the best key in the reactive UI. So it will tell that when any value of user or password, you pass all the properties that you want to be subscribed. When any of those values change, it will perform this validation. And this validation will return either true or false. And this validation will be used as my can login. If you have used any other framework, even the Xamarin.Forms Mvvm framework, you will notice that the comments have this. You can have the task that is going to be executed, but also you can have the can login that can be executed, which is a boolean that will tells you if that task can be executed at that time. It's very clear, the name. Implemented that by hand, you will need to, your backfill, you will need to be refreshing that can be executed, which is really hard. It becomes a mess when you have, imagine that you don't have only username and password, that you have a form and you want the button to save to be available, to be enabled only when all those fields are filled out. If you have 10 fields, you will have to do the validation of those 10. With this, you just have to put all those fields in this line, separated by comma, and then you will have the same effect. That's the part that is important. So as mentioned before, when any is one of the keywords, when any value is another keyword, we have IView4. This key is used when you want to map a view with a view model. That was the last part I was doing, and I will show it in code. Because of every Mvvm framework, we require some bootstrapping. And the bootstrapping meaning is that you will need to tell the views which are the view model, that belongs. If not, you will need to be doing that binding by hand. And in a word that we want to our system to be to grow to I'm sorry, what I meant is that if you do a new inside, that's something I was mentioning before, that I was doing a new, but it was for simplicity. Every time you do a new, we know that we are binding a view model with a class. We were binding that service with a class that was creating the instance. What we want instead is a way to have the instance without even we know. So that's why we have interfaces and stuff. So IView4 will allow you to do the matching, to tell the page what's the view model that's going to be using. And also we have here Observables property helper. So this is for those properties that you just want. You have different first name and last name, and you want to it's a read-only property. You just want to bind them. You can create an observable out of those two properties with this. The good things about Reactive UI is that even though it's called a framework, other people call it a library. But the good thing is that it can be combined with other frameworks. Let's say that right now you're using Prism, which is one of my second favorites. One of my favorites, should I say, right? I should say one of my favorites. So you're using Prism. I love Prism navigation. I love the way that you don't need to worry about, you just do the navigations, and Prism will pass the parameters to the view model. So it's really useful and quick. So, but you have Prism, but you wanna bring to your application some reactive. You can do it like bring a reactive extension with a Reactive UI, but you will miss some of the beauty that Reactive UI has for you. And but you can bring Reactive UI and have Prism alongside, and they work together. I have proof of that. I could show you, but not today. So I put this, and because I wanted to, who understand what is happening here? Who has question of what is happening here? Nobody has any question of what is happening here. It can be understandable, right? I think. Questions? This is the time. No questions, so this is all clear. Should I explain it? What's happening there? Yeah. So what's happening there is that we have a property search query. Let's imagine our application to search in our application like an Amazon. Free promotion to Amazon, and we want to do a search. We have the search, we have with any value. We already know that this is gonna trigger whenever there's a new value in the search query, in the property search query. That's a stream property. So we are gonna throttle here. What it's gonna do is wait 0.8 seconds before firing before firing the comment. We're gonna select is just select as link, select the value, and do a trim. Basically, we are getting the value, removing all the spaces, and returning back the value. Here, the same value. So this thing until change is that if we type HEF for hello, and then we rapidly put L and then erase it, in between the 8 seconds, it's gonna be the same value. So you don't want to trigger another search for the same value that you already triggered. So it will be this. It will come to this line only when it's distant than the previous value. And then you have a where, which is a filtering. If you have seen any other language, you have filter. The where link is basically a filtering. So you want to pass from here to here only, and where the value that we have, it's other than white space. Let's say that we want to trigger the search only when the search query is the length is more than 3. What would be the change that we would need to do here? So we will have query.length plus than 3. But we also need this, because if query is null, then we will have a null section. This is what it's telling is that observe in the main thread. This is something good about Reactive UI, is that it helps you to move from one thread to the other without having to think about. In Xamarin.Forms, how do we change from the main thread, from whatever other thread to the main thread? We need to do the device that invoke a main thread, and sometimes we're in the view model. In the view model, we don't have a device. So you need to be hacking a way to change. Wow, the view model shouldn't be needing to have something with the UI, because the view model is supposedly, there shouldn't be any UI related thing. But you see things on the web. Go to Stack Overflow at 2 a.m. and you will see things happening. And so once all those things are at cover, you will execute the command. Just until you have this cover, you will see you will execute the command. I want to show. Just quickly show how would it look. This is closely what it look. What would it look? The previous execution path that we had. What would it look if we do it in with our Reactive UI with the reactive extension? We will need to, every time there's a change here in query search, we will need to raise the property change, and internally we will be querying if the property that we are that change is actually the one that we're looking for, and if that's the one, we will, well, before we will need to wait a few 8.8 seconds without blocking the UI. That means that we cannot use thread sleep. Neither we can use async that delay because we don't. This is not an async call. But we could make it async here, but we don't want that now. And after that, we're gonna remove the spaces, and then we're gonna check if it is null or empty, and then we're gonna execute. So you see, there are many things happening compared with this one that you see. You do this call in the constructor of your view model. You don't have to be calling everywhere. You just make this, and whenever there is a change in the search query, it's gonna be executed because it is still subscribed to it until you break the subscription. Something that I didn't touch here is how you break subscriptions. I haven't touched so far, and subscriptions are broken by calling at this post. So when you do a subscription, you receive an object. If we go back to the interface, when we do a subscription, we receive an object, which is basically an iDisposable. We know how to implement the iDisposable. We know what iDisposable is. So iDisposable is a way for us as a developer, good developers and citizens, to dispose the objects that we are not using. Let's say, oh, we have garbage collector. No, we can leave it. Sometimes we need to do it manually. If we are doing heavy image processing or whatever, remember, even though new devices have plenty of memory, they're still they don't match what a server is or a PC is, a computer. This is a mobile application. This is Xamarin.Forms. So with this iDisposable that you receive, you just call from the object that disposed, and all the subscriptions that are part of the object will be removed. Good? That's the way we break the subscriptions. Questions so far? No? All good?
Does the Reactive UI have a navigation stack in it as well? Because you said you can mix this with, like, say, Prism.
Yeah.
Does it have its own one or not?
It has its own one.
It does as well. Okay.
Yeah, it does. Actually, the last sample that I was working on was based on the. So I was talking about the bootstrapping. This is what it looks, what would look an application. The bootstrapping is where all the composition of your app happens. So you will have this registration where you're gonna be doing a page to iView for the end view model of that page. Sure. And here, all this helps the navigation because the type of navigation for Reactive UI is view model based. So you tell from a view model, navigate to another view model, and based on this match, it will know what is the page that it will need to go to. So you have the router, the routing state, and this specific class, you pass it as part of the view model. So every view model we have a reference of this class, which then you can use in the login here, which then you can use here to, let's say that we're doing the login, the same sample that I was showing before. You click on sign in, you have you cover all the possibilities here. Let's say that the username is different than the white space and also the password. You call the task is executed, and everything is good, then you navigate. The way you navigate is that you call the navigate and you subscribe to the navigate, and it will trigger the navigation. But as I said before, you can do not use this because of honestly, I do prefer prison navigation. Or there are other people in the community who has come with a different way of navigating, which seems to be easier than this way. You can use those. So Reactive UI, I do prefer Reactive UI. Said before, it gives me the flexibility of working with reactive extension out of the box. I don't have to. I don't have to be doing a stuff things that Reactive UI give to you to work with Reactive, and also it also allows you to. Oh, something else about the Reactive UI is the community. I try. It's true. Prison community is good, but Reactive UI community is amazing. It's amazing, and whenever you if you're using we are in the open, we use open source. If the library we're using, you don't see the maintainer doesn't have to be nice people to you. But if there is a pull request that you create and he or she is always complaining that no, or you see that there's no update, probably you don't want to use the library. You might use a fork and then maintain it yourself, but it's again what I mentioned before. You will need to be doing everything by yourself instead of a whole community working on top of it. And something about the Reactive UI community is that the community is amazing. And if you want to know more about the community, you can subscribe to the Slack channel. There's a Slack, and let me tell you, those guys, they don't sleep. And you can ask questions at 2, 3 in the morning, and they always answering. They always there. And the core maintainers, you receive really good answers from them. You learn a lot. I learned a lot only by watching and by reading. And it's very, very active. So you can subscribe to the Slack. It's free. And if you have any questions, where should I go next? This is my suggestion. This is the best book, and it's in color. I have a copy with me here. I always carry it. This book is for one of the core maintainers, Ken Booger. I had to write the name because it's the last name. Ken Booger. And it's a very good book to introduce you and give you very good topics, very good sources for Reactive UI. It doesn't cover, though, reactive extension, but it can guide you to places where you can get more of a reactive extension. So that's all I have for today, and I'm open to any questions that you have. Don't tell me that you don't have questions, please. I know you're tired. I know you just want to go home. It's 5 p.m. You have been listening talk since 9 in the morning, right? Yeah. So you got to be tired, I know. But at least one question. Yeah, at least one. Those are my daughters. If you don't, sorry, I didn't introduce you. Those are my daughters. They came all the way from Montreal to see me talking. So make me look good in front of them. Please.
How's the performance?
It's good. It's good in terms of... you have the navigation. The performance overall is good because it's plain C# code. Yeah. There's no magic. And reactive extension, if you go on performance, you will see better performance on reactive extension code than you do by yourself. Because most of the time, the problem is with subscription, you see problems with non-reactive code. It's with subscription and with working on the wrong threads. With reactive extension, you can go to that problem too, but it's even harder.
And is this from a Xamarin perspective?
From a Xamarin perspective, I use it so far only for Xamarin. You can use it for WPF, you can use it for UWP. There are many other because this is .NET, but I use it only for Xamarin so far. Yeah. They're wrong. I know you want to do a question. You're thinking about it, but no questions.
I've never used it.
Sample apps. Huh? Sample apps that we can look at.
Well, if you go to the website, The website is reactiveui.net. There are sample apps. There are documentation. We are working hard on making it better, but the documentation is good. And if you go to Slack, any questions that you have through your sample, through your coding in Slack, trust me, people are really nice and they will help you with any questions that you have. Community, for me, community, it means more than anything. And I'm very community driven person. I do love being in community, and everything I go to places, I tell people to get more into community. I was talking earlier. I don't see him. Sorry. He came. One of the speaker. He came all the way from Thailand. You don't see that in other fields. You don't see doctors doing like coming and give free time. People taking free time like many other maintainers and putting things for free on the web. So. Yeah, for me, my community, that was a really parenthesis, a small parenthesis. For me, community means a lot, and because of this field, computing software is the best community that exists overall. So yeah, do not use comments. That's something I would say. Yeah. Comments are good stuff, but I like SAML.
Yeah, I like SAML too. Yeah.
So if you don't have any questions, I think we will close it for today. We'll see tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., right? No? Tomorrow? I came all the way from Montreal for 1 hour and only 2 questions? No. I thought this user group was much better. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day.